The ability to fight properly is what determines whether you are good at Kung Fu, and this martial artist was the master. Welcome to Tech Cargo, where we'll be listing our top 20 best Ip Man fight scenes. The biographical film series based on the life of the Wing Chun Master's battles that had audiences cheering and or pumping their fists will be the focus of this list. Number 20. Ip Man vs. Hun Ga Gang. Even though Wan Shun Lun was among the first students Ip Man took on after the Wing Chun Master and his family relocated to Hong Kong, it is obvious that the young man is not the most intelligent of his students, at least not yet. Wan gets kidnapped by Hun Ga martial arts pupils. While attempting to promote the school, Ip Man goes to the wet market to save him. But the mission quickly devolves into a heart-pounding fight with numerous meat cleavers. Even with his hands tied behind his back, Wan manages to hold his own. But what makes this fight so unexpected is the appearance of Jin Shanzhao and his gang to save the day. Number 19. Sergeant Geddes vs. Master Wan.
I need to fight you.
If there's one thing we've seen consistently in these films, it's heroes standing up for what's right while taking a beating for it. Sergeant Geddes, who seeks Master Wan's vengeance after one of his fighters was defeated, moron that later represents this injustice once more. The two proceed to the Marine base to settle their disagreements after Wan accepts his challenge. Wan appears to be too quick for Geddes at first, making it appear as though Geddes will have to pay for his stupidity. Geddes is able to hold his ground, though, and deliver a few devastating strikes that knock Wan to the ground. Even though Wan loses, in the end, his fortitude in the face of difficulty is admirable. Number 18. Hartman vs. Colin. Ironically, some Americans have trouble accepting and understanding other cultures, none more so than Marine Gunnery Sergeant Geddes, the antagonist of the film. Geddes is not amused when Staff Sergeant Hartman, an Asian American, brings a wooden Wing Chun training dummy onto the base. Geddes forces Hartman to compete against karate expert Colin in order to establish himself and the martial art, because he refuses to take Chinese Kung Fu seriously. Hartman does possess certain skills, but he sadly lacks the physical attributes necessary to defeat his opponent. Geddes, who believed he had won the argument, humiliates Hartman by making the Chinese soldiers do laps while the training dummy burns, establishing himself as a terrible foe who should not be taken lightly. Number 17. Jin Shanzhao vs. Two Masters. This northern Chinese martial arts instructor is seeking for a battle, or two or three, in 1930s China. Jin makes it his purpose to compete against the numerous schools of southern Chinese martial arts in the prefecture-level city of Foshan, where Ip Man's reputation as a revered martial artist is developing. He not only successfully challenges and defeats two neighborhood masters in front of their respective students, but he is also able to demonstrate his sword fighting and hand-to-hand fighting prowess. A third group of students claims that their master is conveniently not here as Jin searches for his next opponent, after 3 straight victories scare them away. Number 16. Elevator Fight. Frank, an American developer of real estate, gets what he wants. He will most certainly attempt it, if not. Frank sends a Thai fighter to complete the task that local triad leader Ma King-sang was unable to complete because he thinks the Wing Chun Master has thwarted his ambitions. Unfortunately, the incident occurs as Ip and his wife Cheung Wing-sing leave a pharmacy after learning that she has terminal cancer. Although Suchard is obviously no match for Ip Man, they are attacked in a lift, in addition to defending his wife at such close quarters. He is also able to manage his emotional upheaval, to the point where his adversary is swiftly and gracefully defeated, which finally results in a touching reunion with Wing Sing. Number 15. Lazy Susan Fight. The martial artists on exhibit in these films have a talent for transforming any environment into a battlefield and any object into a weapon, even something as harmless as a lazy Susan. In this scenario, IP Man visits the Chinese Benevolent Association in San Francisco in search of approval for his son to study in the United States. Master Wan, the head of the CBA, is willing to offer a letter of recommendation as long as IP Man criticizes Bruce Lee for instructing non-Chinese in Kung Fu. IP declines, causing the two to vent their frustration on the centerpiece of the table. The massive glass turntable can do nothing but break because neither gives in. Number 14. Master Hun vs. Taylor the Twister Miller. You have to stand up for your convictions. If there is one theme that runs through the entire IP Man series, when British boxer Taylor the Twister Miller tries to make Chinese martial arts into a joke, Master Hun takes it to heart. Hun is more than eager to take up the difficulty. The gigantic Twister, whose ego swells by the second, quickly overwhelms Hun in an actual East versus West battle of fighting methods. IP Man is ready to concede defeat on behalf of Hun in a scene straight out of Rocky IV, but Hun insisted the fight go on. And if you've seen the aforementioned film, you're already aware of the terrible and brutal events that follow. Number 13. IP Man vs. Master Wan. They wouldn't just tease us with a fantastic Lazy Susan battle before delivering later, so don't worry. Master Wan, who believes IP Man merely saved his daughter Yona to improve his own image, challenges him to compete in a sparring match to establish his qualifications for a letter of recommendation. The two are as equal as one could imagine, with Yona watching nervously. One even goes one-handed to account for Ip's prior schoolyard injury. An earthquake starts to shake the house and destroy everything inside, as if their argument had roused something. One tries to call off the contest, but IP Man dejectedly refuses, leaving us to speculate as to who would have won. Number 12. IP Man vs. Cheung Fung. Chun Tenkai and IP Man were continuously at odds during IP Man 3, that is, until Act 3, when Cheung starts to assert himself as the real master of Wing Chun, casting doubt on its techniques. IP and Cheung engage in an ostensibly private sparring battle, in the battle for Wing Chun to finally put the issue to rest. They use everything from 6.5-point poles and butterfly swords to their bare hands. IP is blinded at one point and must use his hearing to avoid blows, but he triumphs when he throws the famed 1-inch punch. Cheung concedes defeat and retracts his claim after being defeated, but not before we witnessed an epic combat. Number 11. Schoolyard Fight. We get to see IP Man kick, but in various locations, not seen in his prior films when we see his escapades in America. IP finds one's daughter Yona being harassed by a cruel girl and her boyfriend's friends after visiting the high school administrator to inquire about his son's future enrollment. Yona attempts to fight back, but she is simply outnumbered. IP Man, who is always the one to stand up for the weak, steps in and gives the jocks a whooping they won't soon forget. They may be teenagers, so IP isn't too harsh with them, but he nevertheless brandishes his stick with enough ferocity to give them a taste of their own medicine, effectively spanking them like obstinate kids. Well done, IP. Number 10. Mid-Autumn Festival Showdown. Here, the karate expert of Sergeant Geddes is humiliated by Chinese Kung Fu when he was trying to do the exact opposite. Black-belted Colin finds problems At the Mid-Autumn Festival in Chinatown, when he arrives hunting for it, when he encounters a quartet of masters of Wing Chun, he easily dispatches the first 3 opponents, who are all dwarfed by his enormous size, but as IP Man approaches him, he finds himself in for a surprise. Surprisingly, IP is able to utilize Colin's strength and weight against him, steering him in midair on one occasion and dropping him to the ground many times. IP Man and Kung Fu have won with enough authority to whip up the crowd. Number 9. The Cotton Mill Fight. Many cities were decimated by the Japanese invasion in 1937, including Foshan, the hometown of IP Man. IP Man is called upon to assist the cotton mill industrial workers, who are being harassed by northern Chinese martial arts master Jin Shanzhao and his frantic goons. IP teaches them the principles of Wing Chun, so that they can better themselves and are prepared when the Gan shows up. Although they never have the upper hand, the employees manage to hold their own long enough for IP to show their. IP Man then challenges Jin. When Jin continues, IP resolves the conflict using the only means available to him, a very, very long bamboo pole. Number 8. IP Man vs. Frank. When it was revealed that the renowned boxer Mike Tyson will be appearing in IP Man 3, we knew he had to be involved. He plays the role of Frank here, a British-American land developer who wants to seize the property of the neighborhood school. Frank pledges to back down when IP Man confronts him in his office. If he can resist for 3 minutes, IP agrees. The two engage in combat, and the timer goes off. IP succeeds in attacking Frank's bottom half, after first finding him to be too powerful. The timer goes off as Frank is ready to unleash what could be a knockout uppercut, and both freeze. True to his word, few. Number 7. Alleyway Fight. With its outrageous villains and daring story twists, IP Man 4 is a sort of homage to the 1970s martial arts cinema that stars like Bruce Lee helped to popularize. So it was a joyous surprise to see Danny Chan play Lee, engage in a fight that was right at home in one of the latter's films. Following a competition, a group of black belts approach Lee and his students. Their lord promptly summons him to a nearby alleyway where they have a nice, old-fashioned fight. The fight is well choreographed and, once nunchucks are used, makes good use of both the surroundings and available weapons. However, Lee's feet and fists remain his most effective weapons as he joyously declares victory. Number 6. IP Man vs. Jin Shanzhao. Among the fights in the series, this one is definitely the funniest. IP Man has invaded Jin Shanzhao's house in an attempt to demonstrate that his northern fighting style is superior to southern combat, but IP has a few lessons to impart. Jin enters with enthusiasm, breaking a number of IP's household objects while pledging to make amends for each one. IP's son rides on a tricycle in a "I told you so" moment, after hearing about all the destruction, which just irritates Jin more. IP responds with a feather duster to Jin's attempt to cheat, by inserting a blade into the battle. IP then starts beating him with it, before giving him a quick butt shake for good measure. The feather duster, as they say, is mightier than the sword. Number 5. IP Man vs. 3 Masters. There isn't much better than a shaky tabletop, surrounded by upside-down seats to set the scene for some intense fighting. IP Man needs to distinguish himself from the other local masters in order to be accepted as a Wing Chun instructor in Hong Kong. He disposes of the first, and completely dominates the second of his first two opponents. The true test for Master Hung comes when he stands up, he almost falls down. The two are so evenly matched, however, that the tabletop breaks into before a winner can be determined because it is nearly impossible for either one to gain the upper hand in such close quarters. Yes, we believe IP Man has won. Number 4.
He defeated Colin last night.
IP Man vs. Sergeant Geddes.
Kick your ass.
IP Man 4. The finale absolutely needed to deliver with its finale if it wanted to end the franchise. IP Man arrives at the Marine base in true IP Man manner, with the intention of giving the dreadful Sergeant Geddes a lesson in respect and tolerance. The Marines watch as the two fight to a bloody conclusion. IP proves to be too quick and severe to Geddes' weak areas, fracturing his arm and compressing his windpipe to the point where he is unable to continue. Geddes once again relies on his big legs and hefty boots to deliver serious harm. IP receives a round of applause from Hartman and the rest of the men as Geddes is led to the sick bay. Respect, right there. Number 3. IP Man vs. General Miura. When the Japanese took over, the residents of Foshan needed something to be happy about, and what did IP Man provide them that? IP Man squares up against General Miura, a master of karate, in the city's public plaza. At first, IP Man nearly falls off the platform twice, but he manages to get back up by using his balance. The action is tense because Colonel Sato's hand is getting closer to his gun as IP Man performs better. The threat of death doesn't deter him, though, as we see how well prepared IP Man is because to his training. The audience bursts in jubilation as he wins, followed by revolution when IP Man is actually shot. He survives, thankfully, and goes on to fight another day. Number 2. IP Man vs. Taylor the Twister Miller. IP Man takes on the Twister in an attempt to exact revenge on the murdered Master Hung, concluding a Rocky for analogy. Their fight is exciting despite the fact that their fighting styles are different. Twister's strength proves to be too much at first, and IP Man loses nearly half of his arsenal when the judges forbid him from kicking at all because they believe it provides him an unfair edge. IP Man digs deep and adopts Master Hung's fighting techniques, attacking Twister's head to confuse and then defeat him. IP Man asks for respect for one another in the future, despite the distinctions between Eastern and Western ideas, now that he has the opportunity to speak. He receives a standing ovation for his insightful remarks.
Start to respect each
Number
other.
1. IP Man vs. 10 Black Belts. The Foshan residents frequently mythologize the Wing Chun Master's abilities during the first half of IP Man, despite the fact that they are rarely observed. But after seeing Master Liu be put to death in General Miura's dojo and realizing that another friend had likely suffered the same fate, IP Man is done playing Ko. He demands to go up against 10 black belts in karate right away. IP Man does not hold back after achieving his goal, shattering one opponent's leg and easily disposing of the others. He demonstrated that he wasn't someone to be trifled with by making a statement to both General Miura and to us. That's it for today's video. Which fight scene did you enjoy the most? Let us know in the comment section down below. And if you liked the video, do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos. Ciao.